Namaste, dear listeners. Welcome to my exclusive podcast, Soul Crafting with Tanushri, Crafting Your Inner Awareness. Hi, I'm Tanushri Nair, your energy mastery and mindset specialist, author of the book Bring Out That Red Lipstick, and an energy worker and an ICF approved life coach. I am on a mission to enable 100,000 women to discover their innate feminine energy balance through my Inner Shakti blueprint in 90 days. I'm excited to bring out this special guest series episode of this podcast season 2. The theme is Conscious Feminine Energy Leadership Series. As the old wise saying goes, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. This podcast is for all those people who, in the daily grind of life, have forgotten to take a pause and smell the proverbial roses. For those who need a hand to learn self mastery of their thoughts, emotions, and inner self. Let me share this inner journey with all my fellow viewers and listeners. Together, we can go miles. The guest series is a special curated series. We invite inspiring guests who have successfully transformed their adversities to opportunities and in the process transformed themselves inside out to share with us their journey. I'm so thrilled and excited to introduce to you our guest who is already in the studio. So without wasting any more time, let's get chatting. Hello and a warm welcome, Brigadier Sushil Bashin, to our show. I'm honored and thrilled to have my mentor and coach today for season 2 of Soul Crafting with Tanushri. This season, the theme revolves around conscious feminine energy leadership. Brigadier Bashin is a soldier turned educator. After 34 years in the Indian Army, he drew inspiration from students of Army Public School Bareilly, of which he was the chairman, and took a conscious decision to shift gears and enter the education field. As a global speaker, corporate trainer, and a published author of 6 books, most popular of them all, Design Your Life and $1,000,000 Second. He is on a journey of delivering sessions that promise high impact virtual engagements and time consciousness. His mission and passion is to transform people from where they are to where they want to be and further push them to where they can be. Welcome, Brigadier Sir.
Thank you very much, Tanushri, and I'm so happy to be here today. I'm particularly happy because of the wonderful job you're doing, and I'm also happy to be talking on a subject which I've always felt is very vital to humanity, and that is the woman power. The woman power which I think the humanity has failed to harness fully, and and I really feel very strongly that all of us in this world should do something to ensure that we get the best out of the hidden talent that is lying there and we are not using it for the betterment of the world.
So true, sir. So, sir, you have mentioned earlier while we were having a talk that you work with C suite executives, human resource managers, and training managers to create powerful growth hacks for individual contributors, team leaders, and senior management. So, today's discussion is going to be centered around how women professionals, leaders, and entrepreneurs can position themselves for growth. So, before we start all this discussion, sir, it would be great if you can share a little bit about yourself and what mission are you on.
So, Tanushri, my story is a little long, and no matter what I do to cut it short, it does become a little long. But the shortest version is that I served the Indian Army for 34 years, and I was pursuing a brilliant career, and everything was going very smoothly till in 2002, I was posted to Bareilly, and I was told to be the chairman of the Army school. Now, while I was in Ambala, from where I moved to Bareilly, I got to understand from one of my colleagues while playing golf. He said, "Sir, you've been posted to Bareilly?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Sir, are you aware that you will be the chairman of the army school?" I said, "No, I didn't know that." He said, "Yes, sir, you will be the chairman of the army school. And sir, I think you are in deep shit." I said, "Why? Why are you saying that?" He said, "Sir, the school is in a mess and you'll have a tough time there." And then it took on a few days to understand from him why that mess was. But of course, I asked him, I said, "How do you know about it?" And he said, "Sir, I've just come from Bareilly and my wife teaches there." So now I was getting it from the horse's mouth.
Oh.
When I reached Bareilly, and in my very first interview, my general officer commanding, GOC we call him, he in my first interview said, "Sushil, I know you'll do your military duties very well. And I have no doubts on that. But I have a very challenging task for you." And I knew what was coming. He said, "You'll have to be the chairman of the army school. And Sushil, the army school is in a mess." I said, "Sir, everyone says that, but what is it that makes it in a mess?" He said, "For the last 2 years, we don't have a principal. 5 principals have come and gone, but there's nobody who stays back. And there's one head clerk who has been there for 17 years. And that was how long the school was at that point of time. And he said, this man has nilly-willy become the authority in the school because he's the oldest man there. And you need to put him in his place and get the teachers to start working." Now, that was a task I got. I got out of his office and going home for lunch. It was just a 5 minutes drive. And in those 5 minutes, the thoughts that popped up in my mind, my daughter was then in college. My son was entering class 12 and he's going to study in the same school. And at that point of time, these two children's career was the topmost in my mind. That was more important than my own career. And that is where I decided, or the thought came to my mind, if I am so concerned about the career of my children, won't the 2,000 children's parents be equally concerned? And that's the time I reached home and I told my wife, this is what the GOC told me. And I don't know what I do about my office work. There'll be enough time in the evening. I will empower my team to do it. But I'm going to spend a considerable time of my day in the army school. I want to set this right. I cannot afford to have 2,000 children's career being neglected under my supervision. That was some blame I wouldn't like to take at all. In fact, I like to facilitate that these 2,000 children get the best in their life. So with that, I rescheduled my whole program. And Tanu, it is known very well that all chairmen go to the school only when there is a ribbon cutting or there is a foundation stone to be laid or thing like that.
Right.
And otherwise, the principal comes to the office of the chairman to get any signatures and all done. So I told the officiating principal that you will never come to my office. I'll be here every day. In fact, I'll do all your work so that you concentrate on, he was a PGT physics, and the physics classes were suffering because of his involvement in the principal's office. So I told them, I'll do all that work. You will only work after 3 o'clock when the school is closed. If there is something which only requires your signature, you can do it. Otherwise, as a chairman, I am competent to keep signing on your behalf, and I'll clear most of the dark that is lying there. I started doing this every day. Our office in the army starts at 8. So 8 to 10, 10:30, I would spend in my office, get people on their jobs and things like that. From 10 to 12, 10 to 12:31, I would go to the school, and almost every day, unless there was a meeting or some other appointment, I would spend that time in the school and then come back, wrap up my work for the day and go home. This is the routine I followed. And in 6 months' time, the school changed. The school changed so much for the good that a local newspaper, a Hindi newspaper, said, Army school mein tufan aaya. And, it went on to say that there's a brigadier who's come and, shaken up everything, and the school has become very good. So the GOC called me, and he really congratulated me for all the good work that was going on. And now, after about 6 months, there was an event in the school where after this function, the head girl came on the stage and she said, "Can I say a few words for the chairman?" And for about 10 minutes, she spoke very highly of all that had happened in the school in the preceding 6 months. And she said, "Sir, we couldn't believe that the school could be like this even in 10 years, what you have done in 6 months." And then she said many other things. But when she ended up with this one thing which really went deep into my heart, when she said, "Sir, thank you for restoring our pride. We used to feel ashamed when other other children in the officers' colony where we were playing used to say, 'You go to the army school?' And we used to feel ashamed of ourselves. And sir, now they say, 'You go to the army school?' And we say, 'Yes.' And the whole school stood up and clapped. Now, Tanu, 800 children standing up and clapping for you was surely a sense of achievement. And in my book called Design Your Life, the question I was asked by somebody was, why did you write this book? What was so the first chapter was, why was this book written? And you can see this.
It takes 800 children.
So when these children stood up and clapped, I had a sense of achievement, and there was some message that came straight to my mind. I need to do something more for these children. So I was traveling home, and I just had a conversation with God, and I said, "God, you've given me everything that I wanted. You have given me power, authority, money, everyone." As the car was going, the flag was fluttering, there was a star plate there, and anyone on the road was saluting me. I said, "God, enough is enough. I want to now get down to doing something for these children." And that became my sole aim. I reached home and I told my wife, "I'm going to leave the army and start doing something for children." And she said, "Are you mad? You're going to become a major general in a few months' time. You're due for a promotion." I said, "No, I've now understood where my passion is, where my calling is." And at the age of 52, I decided to quit the army, started making my plans. It took me 2 years to plan my transition. And in those 2 years, I did my B.Ed at the age of 52, so that when I go out in if I go out in the education world and tell schools and colleges that I can do education, and they would say, "You're an army officer. What do you know about education?" So just to satisfy that and put on my visiting card something that I'm an educator, I did B.Ed. Okay, and that's a different story, where the person who was teaching us said, "Sir, can you please not come for the class? There's nothing we can teach you." Okay. Anyway, so he said, "You just appear for the exam, but don't worry about the classes. You don't need to attend them." This has been a great story. So in 2004, I left the army, came and started my own. We wanted to start a school, but that turned out to be a little difficult financially. So we settled down to get into experiential learning in outdoor environment and created an adventure camp. We had 50 acres of land near on the Bombay-Goa highway. So I was all the time planning to settle down in Delhi. But because of this, I came to Bombay. We established a camp there and we started doing children's training. But we had a tough time getting schools and colleges to come for this program. So we started doing corporate training for financial stability. Okay. And therefore, then it became corporate and schools both. We were getting more corporates and less schools. So by default and not by design, my inclination tilted towards corporate training. So my famous saying is, the bread and butter comes from the corporate training, but the jam still comes from the children. Right. I just love to do children's training. Yeah. So that has been my story. And after about 10 years of running that company, for some personal reasons, I stepped out and took an independent role as an independent trainer because I thought I could not cope up with the requirement of the company. There's too much of travel, too much of physical work. And that is how now for the last 5 years, I'm into training, more indoor, less outdoor, but I still do outdoors. Not that I don't do that, but earlier it was only outdoors and now it is more of outdoors, less of indoors. And now, because I was very, very tuned to online training even 4 years back, I mastered the technique of online presentations, which I call Hive, which is high impact virtual engagement. And that is where I I collaborated with Jogesh Jain and started a course called Train the Online Trainer, which you are a part of, so you know it very well.
Yes. So
That's my story. Yeah.
That's an awesome story, and thanks for sharing it with us. Yes, we don't need to shorten our story because the whole gist, the whole idea, the whole concept has to be communicated to our viewers and listeners. Where we start, how we transitioned, how we transformed, every bit of that history is very important for our growth. And so you have been in the teaching, learning industry for this long. Unfortunately, last year, due to the pandemic, the whole world went upside down. All the industry, all possible industries, even the learning industry was not spared. And I understand that there have been huge strides in the learning industry since last year because of the way uh, the knowledge is delivered today is totally changed. And I agree. I have been part of the TTOT Train, the online trainer program, and I can. It's like a huge jump from where we were doing physical trainings or physical activities to something that is online, and there comes a huge responsibility on the part of participants, more on the participants to do it, because now it's not like you go into a class and the teacher there has to take the whole thing in his hand, has to take control and drive. Here there is an equal opportunity for the trainer and the participants to drive it together. So what is the current trend in the learning industry now, sir, and how can women, because we are talking with women in this series, women who are in active careers, who are in leadership roles and entrepreneurial, how can women take this opportunity and advantage of the learning trend currently?
Tanushree, let me go back to another story. It was in 2015 where after I left my company and took a little break of 1 month. And in that break, I went to Singapore where my daughter was. And there I got an opportunity to attend Tony Robbins' seminar. Now, in Tony Robbins' seminar, on the very first day, in the lunch break, there was a little conversation between a few of us, and we were about 5-6 different countries people sitting and having lunch together. And the conversation started that who's the Tony Robbins in your country? And everyone came out with their own countries, people who were well known for training. And in 2016, when I was looking for my turn is coming and I have to say something, I really couldn't think of somebody really top of my mind. But after a little thought, I came to 3 names. I said Shiv Khera, Deepak Chopra, and Robin Sharma. And then towards the end of the day, Tony Robbins took us through a very deep emotional exercise where he makes you deep dive into yourself to understand your inner self. And then, it's a long exercise. It takes about an hour and a half. And then, in the end, the whole hall, there was 6,000 people there. The whole hall is dim. There's soft music going on. And he has touched people so emotionally that they're sobbing all over. You can hear people crying, sobbing all over. Emotions are coming out. And in the end, he says, what do you want to do in this life? Can you please shout and tell the universe, what are you going to do? I don't know what happened to me. I don't get emotionally driven easily. And But something happened. I don't know why. I said, Tony, I'll be there in 5 years' time. Pointing to that stage where he was, that I'll be there on that stage. And I don't know why I said 5 years. I don't know why I wanted to be on the stage. I don't know. There was no rationale behind it, but I just said it. Now, when I was going home and it was 1 hour's drive in the cab, I thought to myself, I was already 65. I said, I am 65. And if I now start becoming a trainer of Tony Robbins caliber, it may take me some time. And in that time, my lifespan of how much time will I be left with to make a difference to the world? Why can't I do something else? Why can't I train trainers and leave a legacy? Why can't I? Because I had learned some very, very interesting things about training, which even today, I haven't come across a single book that can beat the British pamphlet of something called Methods of Instruction, which I had learned in Army School of Mechanical Transport way back in 1979. In 79, I had done this course and I was an instructor there, and we were taught methods of instruction. And I said, I have been teaching people, I've been training trainers in the army. Why can't I do that in the civil and leave behind my unfinished tasks, which will be done by people like you now? That's why. So I came back to India, I turned out a program called Train the Super Trainer. And my partner now, Jogesh, was a part of that program. And he's my best. So he's already one of those 5 trainers who's in that field, who's on that level of being a national trainer. And I told you, I'm looking at you as one of those 3 vacancies that still exists. I decided to leave a legacy behind. And let me tell you where I'm particularly focused on you. I have said this in Wits, that's a hotel in Mumbai, where on, I think it was 6th of June, if I'm not wrong, 2015, I declared that I will give this nation 5 national level trainers. And in the same sentence, I said, I saw there were at least out of 100 people sitting in the hall, there were at least 40 to 45 women. And I said, I see a huge number of women sitting here. And in my 3 people that I named, there was no woman there. And I am a very strong believer that women make wonderful trainers because there is a certain amount of emotion involved. Gender doesn't matter. But women, if not better, but are equally equipped to be a good trainer than a man. Why are they not there? Okay. And that has become a very important thing. So to me, whether it is in the corporate ladders or in the training circles, women have very, very high potential. They are better to be trained. As a trainer, if I have a choice, I will train more women because they are more learnable. They are more teachable. And that is what makes it very, very strong. So I think what you're doing is a very fine thing. You're focusing on the feminine energy, which is supreme. And why are we not doing it so far? So I think you've taken up a very, very good theme for your life. And I'll be 100% supporting you in this because I feel I resonate with that thought.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Yes, there is a lack of women leaders. We do have women leaders coming out in not just in our country. There are very few to name with, but there is a huge potential. There is a lot of room on the top for women leaders, professionals to activate their career, and not just career. It has to seamlessly get integrated with their life.
Absolutely.
And as women, we usually end up multitasking a lot while trying to balance our career aspirations. I mean, Indra Nooyi also said that there is nothing like, a woman can have it all. But we always strive for that thing that if possible, can I have it all? Can I have my children with me? Can I have my relationships with me? Can I have my great family time? Can I have a great career? Yes, there are a lot of things that they juggle with. But many people, many women, in fact, it was even true for me. We kept entering and exiting the industry. We picked up jobs at lower salary, and we even compromise with growth at work because we have to handle a lot of things. Because when a woman steps out to work, it's not like the men. When men go out, they just look forward and they just move out of the house. They reach the place of work and they work there and they come back home. For women, when they step out of the house, they always have eyes behind, looking over their shoulders, and they keep a piece of them there and they carry themselves out of the house for that work. But, I always feel that if it is possible not to have so much compromise to do, but yes, with whatever situations is possible, can you share some growth hacks for us today, sir? Do you have any advice for women to work on their productivity so that whatever limited time and resources that they have, they can do the most in that?
See, one is what I observed, because I did more than, I can't say the exact number, but about 1.5 to 2,000 MBA students. I've done programs, and I used to do a program called College to Corporate. And there used to be a sizable number of girls who were doing that course. Now, because it used to be a 3 days, 3 nights course, and you saw them, in a residential program where you were with them almost the whole day, other than the sleeping hours, the lunchtime we were together, the evening time we are together, your activities are together. You had a lot of exposure with them. What I realized was that in today's trend, a girl who's young, earlier girls would get married at 22, 23 or something. These days, because women are going into careers, they normally don't get married till about 28, 29, something like that. Now, when they reach that stage, and before that, they get into affairs, they have boyfriends and this and that. Somewhere, I think that girls don't visualize their life ahead. And they think that marriage is an extension of a dating. And it is not. You'll know that dating was all about going to pubs and restaurants and movies and parks and all that. But when it comes to marriage, फिर gas khatam ho jati hai, so there's a tension there. Then there's no parks and hotels and all that, right? Now there are relationship issues. A woman goes through a terrific change when she gets married, at least in the Indian context, where overnight she doesn't become a wife, she becomes a daughter-in-law, sister-in-law. Whole lot of laws come into her life. And I don't know why what is law got to do with it, but anyway, it is there, right? So I always say daughter-in-law and don't say daughter-in-law. Life will change for you.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. But the point is that she is going under a lot of transformation. She gets married. She has different roles to play. And now, if this has happened in this current scenario, as we said, that you get married at, let's say, 28 or 27, 28. And now when you have a baby, you're almost about 30. And in that time, you have also got about 10 years service. You have 10 years work experience. You've also by now reached a senior manager's position. So what has happened simultaneously is that your responsibility at home and your responsibility in the office has merged together.
Right.
My first advice to ladies is, particularly young girls, that when you want to get into work, please plan this. You know that this will happen. Don't wish away a reality. Children are a reality. Don't say, I won't have children. Later on, you will. Half the girls will say, I won't have children, but later on, they'll have children, because that is an intrinsic desire of a woman. I think every woman out there wants to be a mother.
Yeah, because and plus the social pressure is also there. Once the marriage hits 1 or 2 years, it's all the people around you who start making you feel like you're what are you losing? What you're losing time, and
So I did that. I did that with my daughter for a while. till she explained to me that, Dad, I am going to look after my career first. And she had a very good plan in mind. Then I told her, you please go ahead. My idea was only to tell you advantages and disadvantages of having children on time. So she got married at 29 and she's had her first baby at 40.
Wow.
Right? But she's balanced her life so beautifully. Like what you just said, my daughter's an example. She's doing exceptionally well in her career. And when I'm saying exceptionally, it is really exceptional. And she's got a very good family life. She's got a very nice husband and a lovely kid. And thanks to pandemic, when the child was born, soon after that, there was pandemic. He was just about 1 when the pandemic hit us. And she has had so much of time at home with him, which she wouldn't have had if there was no pandemic. Right? So the point I'm trying to make is, firstly, is visualization. Plan your career. You know that this will happen at 30, this will happen at 40, this will happen at 50. Don't let those come as surprises to you, because what is predictable, I always say, operate ahead of the predictability curve. That today you have data, you have data analytics, you can visualize what's going to happen. And then if you know that at 30 this will happen, why aren't you mentally and physically prepared for that to happen? Right? That is point one. Point two is, you just said something, and I've seen my daughter doing it as well, and all successful women do. They do something called juggling, and they become very good jugglers. Now, the point is, people say work-life balance. And I said, no, there's no work-life balance. Because for most of us, work and life are not two separate things. They're together, they are integrated.
True.
Can I tell you, Tanushri, how much time do you spend on breathing? And when do you breathe well and when do you don't breathe well? You breathe all the time.
True.
And for me, my work is my breathing, and I don't know when to stop working. Even if I'm on a beach and I'm enjoying a holiday, no matter what people say. So I'll differ with a lot of people who say, that time just forget about your work. Yes, I don't do any work, but my thoughts about my work don't stop. And while sitting on the beach, I will get a wonderful idea, which I'll quickly write down, or probably even WhatsApp to a friend or to my team and say, hey, when I get back, let's try this out. Have I stopped thinking about my work? No, I may have stopped working in that time.
True.
But that machinery is going on. The machinery is going on. So therefore, what you need to do is, my subject, time management. You have to learn how to divide your time in a manner that there is time for your parents, there's time for your children, there's time for your husband, there's time for yourself. You don't have any time for yourself. I was about 25 when I realized, Tanu, I realized that the most unimportant person in my life is me. That I have time for my wife, I have time for my boss, I have time for my children, I have time for my dog. I don't have time for myself. Where is your me time? You have to have some conversation with yourself. And I say, last 30 minutes of your day, when you're lying down in the bed, close your eyes, nobody else around, just close your eyes and be with yourself. And go over the day. What did I do well today? What went so well that I must do tomorrow and continue? What should I stop doing? So I tell people, make a to-do list, make a to-achieve list. And more importantly, make a not-to-do list.
True.
That this is what went wrong today, tomorrow I'll not do it. So now these are some of the things that you can do as women. And so this is one way that I say that women should know that they have their responsibilities. They have to balance them out, means give adequate time to each. And there's one lady I have come across in my life. Her name is Vijaya Suvarna. She runs a company is called Liberation Coaches. And she is running that coaching company so well. She's traveling so often to all over the world, delivering her programs, running her company, doing all types of webinars and everything. Yet she writes a doodle every day. So she has written doodles for my
Oh, your
book
time
Million
management.
Dollar
Yeah,
Second.
yeah.
No,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the
And
$1 million second, right?
yeah, in fact, I'll be very happy to let your viewers have a copy of that. I'll give you the link and you can share that link with your
Sure.
viewers. That is my 10 chapters of $1 million Second have been converted into 10 visuals. And
Wonderful.
you can read, I mean, like one chapter you can assimilate visually in less than 5 minutes.
Awesome.
Okay. Now, this is what you can do. So that means in 40 to 50 minutes, you could actually get a sense of the book.
Correct.
And she did this for me free of cost. And she does one doodle of any book every day. And she came to me on a call and said, would you like me to do your book's doodles? And who would say no?
Of
And
course.
she did that. Now, when I know her more and more, do you know that every Saturday evening, she has family time with her two daughters.
Mm-hmm.
That is her daughter's time. And they all know that Saturday evening is time with mom. Neither the mom can be busy nor the daughters can be busy anywhere else. And they have different plans, whatever they do, but they spend time together. Right?
True.
She is a very good cook. So she does make very good dishes for her family when she's in Mumbai. She is a very good dancer. She's a musician. I know she does 100 things and I don't know how she does them all. And consistency is everywhere. So if you have to learn something and somebody says, no, this is not possible. How can I do this? I've got so much of work at home. I've got so much work in the office. Then please come to people like me or to Vijay and learn this from them.
Agree.
It is possible. It is possible. But you have to learn the art of doing it. And there's an art. And there's an art and science both.
True.
And you have to learn the art and science of managing your priorities, managing your time, and then making sure, I've been saying all the time as a time consciousness coach, I started by saying, you have 86,400 seconds in a day, not a second more or less. And then last year I revised and said, no, you have more than that.
True.
You can get more time. You can buy people's time. So when you have a maid servant, you bought her time for a certain amount of fee that she does some of your jobs so that you can do something else.
True.
What happened? You increased your day's time.
Right.
Your time and her time is together your time. Because if she spends 6 hours in your house, those 6 hours, she has relieved you of your work.
Right.
Okay. Same thing happens in a company. The CEO doesn't have 8 hours in a day. He has 1,000 hours in a day. Because other people's time productivity is also his baby.
True.
So I've got an article written for Human Capital which says, their time is your business. Right. Their time is your business. And not many people devote or invest any energy into finding out how much productivity are those people doing and how much are they leaving on the table. If you're giving them a salary, and let's say on an average people are doing productivity, they are only 50% productive. Half the salary bill that you pay is going waste.
True.
Okay. So women can do a lot by visualizing, planning, prioritizing, and juggling the balls very well so that they can have the best of it. And I know not of one, not two, many women, and I can quote them, who get the best of everything. They have the best of family life. My daughter has been going out for 2 holidays, preferably international, every year. And she had made a goal for herself that she will do more than 40, she would have done more than 40 countries before she's 40. And she turned 40 last year, and she had already on her birthday done about 46 countries.
Wow.
Okay.
Awesome.
Right. So she's had holidays, except for pandemic, she's been on holidays every year, at least one international and one national and sometimes more. right? She's been also traveling abroad a lot on her work, which has also been adding to her visiting countries. And she's lived in Singapore, where she was looking after APAC. So she was traveling a lot to Australia and Hong Kong and all that. So she's traveled a lot. My point is, there's nothing I can feel that a woman wants which she didn't get in life.
Right. Yes,
and she's only 40. She's only 40. She still has life to go.
That's an achievement, actually. I mean, having such clear goals for yourself, visualizing and planning it out and prioritizing, those steps just work perfectly after that goal, that intention is set for yourself on how you want to design your own life. Yes, there will be marriages, there will be kids, but you cannot take a part out of you. That's just one part of you. Like how I also agree with what you said, that work is a part of life. It's not like the whole. People compartmentalize and make it look like it is a big part, and all the energy effort keeps going towards that part of the life. Whereas life, which is a bigger circle, is ignored, which is a bigger part of you is ignored. And,
absolutely.
And as a woman, I think, yes, a career is important. Yes, a family life is important. But above all, it is you. If you have your oxygen mask in place, you'll be able to help anyone around you in times of emergency. And that oxygen mask.
You just said it. I was going to say, everything is important, but most importantly, you yourself are important.
Right.
So, put the focus on yourself. Am I getting what I want in my life? And why people don't get what they want in their life? Because they don't know what they want. First, have clarity on what do you want. And once you know what you want, then you can work towards it. I'm tempted to give you a very, very interesting example here of how women go through these phases in life and what can they do about it. So we were looking for a marketing manager in our company. And out of the applications, we got one girl who was working in ICICI Prudential, and we were going to take her. She was one of the candidates. But she was drawing about 1 lakh a month, a little more than 1 lakh. I think about 14 lakhs annum she was drawing. And we didn't have that budget. We didn't want to give that much of money. So we almost rejected that, saying we can't afford her. So we got a call from her. She said, I sent an application. Have you considered it? Her name is Kalpana. I said, Kalpana, the problem is that your profile is very good, but we can't afford you because you're getting 1 lakh. She said, no, sir, I'm prepared to work for even half that. So why would you do that? She said, sir, I have got a small son and I've left my job because I want to give time to my child, and now my child is a priority. Salary is not a priority. But while I am looking after my child and the child is small, I don't want to give up a job. So I want a job which is working from home. And because you are allowing that is a reason why. And I like the job that you are is in store for me. I like the job. It is challenging. I find it interesting. I am going to be able to look after my child. So compromise on the salary, but no compromise on my child. I said, wonderful. So we took her, at half the salary. And now she told me one thing very clearly. She stays quite close to my house. I said, when I am going for meetings, I want you to come with me because I want to train you as a business development manager. So she said, sir, all that you need to do is tell me 1 day in advance, because if you tell me suddenly, it may be difficult because I can't leave my child unattended. So she took up a creche, which is close by, and it is a beautiful creche. I have seen how they take care of children there. And she would leave the child there only for a limited number of hours, 2 hours, 3 hours while the meeting lasted. And that creche had that facility that you could pay per day, per hour, some arrangement like that. One day, we went for a meeting to a company where she had worked earlier. So when we went there, The moment he came out of the lift, she met another girl and they hugged each other, met as long lost friends and all. And then I discovered that that other girl had been with her in ICICI Prudential. They were colleagues there. And now that girl was working in this company. When we got into the car while coming back, Kalpana tells me, she says, "Sir, you know this girl? She's got a baby girl who's just 6 months old. She leaves her in a creche at 7 or 8 in the morning and goes and picks her up at 7 or 8 in the evening." Okay. Now that is not the way a normal woman would like to do. But I'm sure she has some compulsions, some financial compulsions or something. No mother would like to do that. My point is, have you planned it? Have you planned it? These are predictable things.
True.
Your child is not unpredictable. Your marriage is not unpredictable. Your job, you're becoming a senior manager is not unpredictable. When they're all unpredictable things, why can't you plan and cater for them and train yourself for that? That's a simple thing.
True. True, sir. And like we put goals for our career saying that I want to go from this level to that level, from this level to that level. I think similar goals needs to be set in our personal life. That where do you want to see yourself 5 years from now? Not only from a career perspective, but as a developed person, and in terms of having your own personal development, where you want to stand from
As
now.
a wholesome person.
Yes.
As a wholesome person.
Right.
What is my version? You know, we do an exercise saying, what is your next version? So
True.
if today your version 1.0, what's your version 2.0? So in my goal setting workshops, I make everyone do a version exercise that you have to write down and they take a picture, and we all become accountability partners. We see next year at this time, what will you be? So Tanushri will be A this, B this, which is like a model comes out, like you have I-10 and I-9. There are models coming up, versions coming up, features. Right. So what is the feature of one model against the other? That is better memory, it has better battery life, it has better storage, whatever. Now, are you able to discern for yourself that next year this person will be better enlightened, better qualified, whatever, and then write down what do you want to do. So you have some clear goals. You can visualize that next year I'll be like this and next year I'll be like this. At least 2 to 3 years, if not more. Because today it is difficult to predict more, but at least have an overall vision also. Overall vision of what you want to be in life. So if you do this, it's not so difficult, but you have to go step by step in phases. True. And methodically. If there's a method in the madness, then the madness will disappear.
Right, right. Thanks so much, Brigadier Sir. This was like very insightful. And thank you for taking that extra time to, discuss and in detail explain your thoughts about how women can proceed ahead. Yes, there are going to be a number of challenges, but like Brigadier Sir said, visualize, plan, prioritize. I wish this advice came to me some years back when I was stepping out of my engineering, post my engineering graduate into the work field. And yes, there are so many things that we learn through experience, but there are some things that a mentor and a coach can, just straight away take you to that point, and it hits the mark straight away. You don't have to spend time taking that extra effort. Yes, the effort needs to be there in the action that you need to do for yourself, but guidance, advice, teaching, learning can come from a coach and a mentor. And this is what I even discussed in my previous episode with Jogesh Jain about why there is an importance of a coach or a mentor for women today. And
for anyone,
yes,
I think everyone needs a coach and a mentor. And I learned it from Tony Robbins, who said that even he has 5 coaches.
Yeah, you need.
There are 5 people who coach him.
Every area, I guess, of our life.
Yeah.
So on this ending note, Brigadier Sir, do you want to quickly give us message for the audience, for the viewers and listeners?
So my message is that life is full of choices and I can make those choices, or it is up to me to make any choice. So my quote and my prayer is, God, give me the capability of coping up with the consequences of the decisions I make. If you can just do that, that means make your considered choices. And this is what my book, Design Your Life, also says. Make considered choices, because you will have a path that will be decided by every decision that you take. Every time you take a decision, it is a turning point, or it is a point on that path. And the path keeps getting carved by which school, which stream to take, which college to go to, what job to take, which guy to get married to, which area to settle down, what job to take a job, or to be an entrepreneur, to have a baby, not have a baby. Every time you're taking a decision, it is carving a path for you.
New path for
Please carve your own path and don't follow a path on which you are being pushed by others.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brigadier Sir, for taking out time from your busy schedule and joining for the show. We wish you and your mission and teaching spreads globally and you reach higher successes.
Thank you very much, Tanu, and thank you very much for your platform. I think I loved this conversation, and I hope the viewers will benefit from it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, dear listeners and viewers, the links to Brigadier Sushil Bashin's online business presence is shared in the description below. With this, we come to an end to today's Soul Crafting with Tanushri episode. You can head over to my website www.tanushrinayar.com to subscribe to my newsletters or connect with me on my FB page Tanushri Nayar, on Instagram as @soulfullearning with Tanushri. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel Tanushri Nayar by pressing the bell icon. I also conduct free 30-minute discovery sessions, the link of which is available in the description. Thank you for joining me on yet another episode. And until we meet again, stay safe, stay inspired. You're all loved. Peace, love, and light. Your host Tanushri, signing off.